Were you surprised Jones kept on testing Gilmore?
Yeah, he's tripping. Yeah.
Stephon Gilmore right now may be the best corner in the league. And if you look at this, including touchdowns from both their defense and special teams last night, the Pats have 5 of those on the season. Again, that's more. It's more than the Dolphins and Jets have offensively combined. And according to Elias, they're the 4th team in the Super Bowl era with more non-offensive touchdowns scored than offensive touchdowns allowed through 6 games. It's a convoluted stat, but it tells a lot. Meanwhile, in this game last night, how is this not pass interference, right? I mean, that's obviously blatant pass interference on a play to Golden Tate. The Giants coach, Pat Shurmur, would challenge. The no call was upheld. What has been made very clear through the first 6 weeks of this season, as we go on the clock here, is that while the league put into play the ability to challenge this pass interference, the officials have been instructed not to overturn them. So I got 60 seconds on the clock. Jonathan Vilma, do you have a problem with that?
Not at all. I love it. They messed up. There's error in the game on both sides, and including the referees. If they miss a call, they miss a call. Worry about it in the playoffs when it really counts.
What do you think?
It's an overcorrection league, right? They missed a big call in the playoffs last year. This was the reaction. And now it's just kind of floating out there. There's no real substance to it.
Well, the substance is this. It will not decide a playoff game again. Correct. By putting that in place, this will not decide which team winds up in the Super Bowl again.
Exactly. This is not a playoff game. And frankly, I won't even talk about this game specifically. No game in the regular season is going to be decided by one missed pass interference call or non-call. So they're telling them stop throwing the flag. It's not going to happen. It will happen when it's necessary, and that's in the playoffs.
You saw it with Jason Garrett this past weekend when he slammed his thing down because he's frustrated. And this is obviously pass interference, but I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm okay with them not overturning it.
But here's the problem. If you have the rule and you can review it, then review it and make it work. But you're saying it's not going to affect a game until the playoffs. I disagree. It didn't affect that game last night, but if it did and that game kept them out of the playoffs, it's the same thing.
I understand.
Get the traction.
I understand. Listen, I see both sides of this. Clearly, it doesn't, logically, it doesn't sound like it makes sense. Put in a rule, but don't pay attention to it, but I actually understand. Next topic, the Browns just took a beatdown on Monday night, but they're only 1 game out of the division. 60 seconds on the clock. Are the Browns going to win the AFC North?
They are definitely not going to win the AFC North. They're going through growing pains in that time. The AFC North, the Browns will be second, and they'll get it going the following year.
What do you think?
I think they're a wild card team. I don't think they take it. They still got to learn how to win. Winning is a cultural thing. It's something you have to learn. Going, like you said, it's growing pains and learning how to work with a star-studded cast. There's only one football to go around, and if your quarterback's not playing great, that ball doesn't go around as easily. Yeah. And those guys get upset, they get frustrated. So it's going to take some time.
To that point, Mark. They can't let all the outside noise, us talking about the Browns and what's wrong with them, affect that team and the culture of that team. To stay the course. I know the old
put the blinders on.
Put the blinders on. Stay the course.
If you look at the state of the AFC right now, the NFC, someone could get left out at 10-6. In the AFC, someone could get in at 8-9
wins. Yeah, 8-8, baby. Right.
That's not impossible if you sort of look at the way that the conference is breaking down right now. So I agree they could get a wild card. But the best bet there is to try and win that division, which feels mediocre. One more for you guys. Earlier this week, the NFL upheld its season-long suspension of Vontaze Burfict for that hit on Jack Doyle. 60 seconds on the clock. I'm looking right at you.
You're looking right at me. And I'll start from this perspective. When you watch the play live, and in regular motion, regular speed, whatever you want to call it, it was not that egregious. You just watch the play, and no one said, oh, my gosh, what a dirty play or what a dirty hit, until they slowed it down, and then until you realize who made that play. And then everyone all of a sudden started to say, oh, this is just a horrible play. Vontaze Burfict, no business being in the league. When he had the suspension reviewed, you can't sit there and talk about everything that happened in the past. Look at that play and say, does that warrant a year-long suspension? No.
In a vacuum,
maybe.
In a vacuum, you're 100% right. I'm just telling you, the optics of him doing that, running off the field with the peace sign, smiling, it's everything else. It's the accumulation of that body of work that makes it look bad. Listen, I don't necessarily agree with that. I learned that same brand of football from an offensive perspective, that you're not allowed to just run through the middle. You get your head taken off, dude. But those aren't the rules anymore. And now that these rules are in place, if you can't play within those rules, you can no longer play.
That's not the NFL we live in anymore. We'll have much more pro football as we continue. But right now, I want to take you live to a place they call Bowman Field on the campus of Clemson University. The defending national champion Clemson Tigers getting set for a huge weekend, and part of the festivities will be First Take, coming your way live from campus in 24 minutes. Head coach Dabo Swinney will join them live, and obviously that means Stephen A. is in the house. Look at the enthusiasm that's there. Very quickly, Steve, I have a few things I want to get to. Give us a sense of the vibe down there at Clemson.
Well, first of all, Greeny, let me be very, very clear. I would love to answer your question, but I can't hear a damn word that you're saying, partially because it's loud out here. I'm on the campus of Clemson, and I must tell you, they are loving the fact that I'm here. I'm not so sure, because what they haven't told you, Greeny, is why I'm here. I promised Dabo Swinney that if Clemson had beaten Alabama, because obviously I rolled with the tide, that I would show up to Clemson and apologize for picking against them. So I'm actually here to apologize to the University of Clemson, particularly their football team. I got to give a speech at 1:50 this afternoon, and Dabo Swinney has spent the last 24 hours laughing at me. That's the predicament I'm in. Again, I didn't hear your question, but damn it, that's my answer anyway.
You answered it just fine. I can't be the only one, by the way, distracted by the Trevor Lawrence behind him. I can't look anywhere else. Anyway, if you can't hear me, we've talked a lot about the Patriots, whose offense didn't look particularly good last night, but they still win by 3 touchdowns and are unbeaten. How do you feel about the Patriots right now?
Well, I don't think they're the best team in the AFC. I think that has to go to the Kansas City Chiefs because they've got Patrick Mahomes, not to mention the fact that Tyreek Hill is cleared to play this weekend. So we'll see what happens. We know how potent he'll make that offense. We can't ignore Deshaun Watson and the greatness that we're witnessing from him with the Houston Texans. It's going to be real interesting to see what Kansas City and Houston, how that game pans out this weekend. But when you look at the Patriots, let's be clear, it's really all about the injuries. Obviously, Josh Gordon goes down last night. We know that Julian Edelman has really been Tom Brady's only reliable weapon. Sony Michel has been inconsistent, to be kind. He had a big run in garbage time last night, but outside of that, their running game didn't do much. Antonio Brown is gone, filing grievances against the team and the league, talking about, since you got to pay me, you might as well play me, as if he won the damn grievance. I don't recall that happening, but nevertheless, that's what he's saying on social media. So in the end, what you're looking at is a 42-year-old quarterback and Tom Brady, who people have speculated as to whether or not he's fallen off a cliff, which I think is utterly ridiculous, when in fact you look at the plethora of injuries that they've had to succumb to. This is what he's working with. They're still 6-0. The road to the Super Bowl would still have to go through Foxborough if the players were to begin the day. Everybody needs to pump the brakes. Remember, we're talking about Brady. Remember, we're talking about Belichick. Remember, we're talking about Foxborough. But still in all, recognize the fact that injuries are something they're going to have to overcome. At this moment, they're not the best team in the AFC, but these aren't the playoffs yet. We're only 6 games in.
And very quickly, Steve, if you can hear me, yesterday on this show, Jalen said the Lakers are his favorites to win the NBA championship this year. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I think the combination of LeBron James with Anthony Davis is too potent. I think the Clippers are a better team. They're a deeper team. They're a better defensive team. But the combination of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, combined with their physicality and their new identity, Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd, and those boys, they've got them focused on being a more physical, more defensive-minded team. And if they're willing to match that level of intensity that Vogel is insisting upon, that we've seen from them thus far in the preseason, I believe actually the biggest threat to them would be the Golden State Warriors once Klay Thompson returns, because of Klay and Steph's ability to shoot perimeter shots. Anybody else is not going to be able to shoot like that, and the Lakers' defensive tenacity, along with the greatness of LeBron and Anthony Davis, should be enough. I think Jalen's right here. I think the Lakers should be the favorite to win the chip.
This is going to be a lot of fun this morning. First Take coming your way live in 20 minutes. They are live at 10 a.m. Eastern from Clemson right here on ESPN. Steve, have a fantastic day. Give our regards to everybody down there. Meanwhile, still to come here on Get Up, we got a lot to do. Carson Wentz has been good in the red zone, but one of our guys says he's about to run into a purple wall this weekend. And this is a big Heisman weekend. A couple quarterbacks can step to the top of the list. Who's going to do it? We'll tell you next. It's Get Up on ESPN.